solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
Ma'am, could you please state your first and last name and spell them for the benefit of the court reporter?
Kariann Swart. It's spelled K-A-R-I-A-N-N-S-W-A-R-T.
And Ms. Swart, do you know Joseph Rosenbaum?
I do.
How do you know Mr. Rosenbaum?
He's my fiance.
And is Mr. Rosenbaum still living?
No.
Okay. And did he die on August 25th, 2020?
His date of death is considered August 26th.
And before that date, how long had you known Mr. Rosenbaum?
Since August 3rd of 2019.
And after you met, how long did it take till you started a romantic relationship?
About maybe 3 days.
And had you known him before? You'd never met him before August 3rd?
No.
And where are you from?
I grew up in Illinois.
What would you and Joseph do together?
When Joseph and I were together at the beginning, we were homeless. We just spent a lot of time talking, getting to know one another, and laughing and joking around. He was a very animated person like that.
And is Joseph from Kenosha?
No, he is from Waco, Texas.
And do you know why he moved up here?
He moved up here to be with his girlfriend at the time and their child.
So does he has a child living in Kenosha?
Correct.
I would like to bring your attention to the day of August 25th, 2020. Did you see Joseph on that day?
I did.
And where did you see Joseph?
I saw him at the motel that we were living at.
Was it in the motel or outside the motel?
Outside the motel.
And had you seen, do you know where Joseph had been in the days prior to that?
Correct.
I'm sorry. Do you know where he had been in the days prior to August 25th? In the day or two prior?
Yes.
Where was he?
He was at a hospital in Milwaukee.
And do you know for sure how he got from the hospital in Milwaukee to back to Kenosha?
I am not 1,000% sure. As far as I gathered from him and from the hospital, they brought him down here.
You didn't bring him back down?
No, I did not.
And he wasn't dropped off at this motel?
No.
So how did, if you know, how did Joseph, do you know where he was dropped off?
I believe he was dropped off by the transit center.
So right around here in downtown Kenosha. And do you know how he got to your hotel?
He walked.
I don't want to give the name because it's about how far would that be?
About an hour, 40 minutes. 40 minutes to an hour, I would say.
So the hotel is not in downtown Kenosha?
No, it's not.
Ma'am, can you bring the microphone a little closer? It's kind of hard to hear in here.
Is that better?
And when Joseph arrived at your hotel, what did he have on him?
You mean as in on his person?
Well, let me ask this way. What was he wearing?
He was wearing jean shorts, white shoes, and a red top.
Did he have a bandana with him at all?
No.
And was he carrying or holding anything?
He was carrying a plastic hospital bag.
And did you see the plastic hospital bag?
I did.
Did you see what was inside the plastic hospital bag?
I did.
What was inside the plastic hospital bag?
I saw socks, a miniature deodorant, like trial size, little toothbrush and toothpaste, paperwork, and an empty water bottle, like a plastic water bottle that was empty.
So when you're talking about a plastic water bottle, let me just borrow
Yeah.
one from the detective here.
Yeah.
Do you mean like your standard 16 to 20 ounce plastic bottle, or like something you'd see maybe at a gym or on a bike, like a more heavy plastic?
No, it was a plastic bottle like that.
So a small, probably 16-ounce plastic.
It was
water bottle.
empty. There was no water.
And did you talk to him about this bag?
I did. I just asked him if he wanted me to throw it out, and he had said no, he was going to carry it around with him because of the few items that were in it.
About what time did he arrive at this, or I guess near this hotel?
I would say between 3:30 and 4:30.
And what did you guys do once he arrived?
We talked. We hadn't seen each other for maybe a week, and we just mostly talked about his and my relationship.
And this was outside?
Correct.
And then actually let me ask it this way. Do you know if he was able to procure any medication that day?
He was not able to fill the prescriptions he had because the Walgreens closest to us had been boarded up and closed down due to the chaos that was going on.
Do you know, if he had taken his medications that day?
He had.
Do we have the TVs on? Ms. Swart, I'd like to show you what is marked as Exhibit 26. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
That is the plastic bag from the hospital.
And is it true that a few days ago I showed you a printout of this exact exhibit?
Yes.
And is that the plastic bag that you're referring to that he had brought back from the hospital?
Yeah, it's like one of those plastic bags that you just put your clothes and belongings in.
And in looking at the screen, does it seem like there's more items or fewer items or the same items, if you can tell, that he had when he was at your residence?
It appears to be the same as when I saw it.
Can you make out anything in this photograph?
I can make out. I think he might have had an extra shirt in there, that might be, and it looks like the water bottle on the side.
Extra water, I think you what you said.
Shirt.
Shirt, thank you.
Do you know if Joseph Rosenbaum knew anyone named Kelly or Joshua Zeminski?
He did not.
I would object, that's speculation.
Sustained. Expect the answer. The witness would not be in a position to know the identity of all persons that the accused would have known, the decedent would have known. Thank you.
Do you know if he knew any people in Kenosha?
No, he did not.
Same objection. Not sure I heard the question.
The question was, do you know whether he knew many people in Kenosha? And she answered, pardon me?
That would be my objection would be the same.
Okay. It's along, generally, it's the same, would be the same ruling, except that it's like my asking if you know people in, many people in Topeka. That's really a bad example, but the bottom line is, it's a little bit different from the last. Did the decedent know a specific individual? Now he's asking her, did he know many people in Kenosha? And I think that she'd be in a better position to answer that, so I'm going to let that one go.
And you said no?
Correct.
Now, in your relationship, this about year, how often were you with him?
Every day.
And were there times he would go out on his own?
No.
Were you together all the time?
All the time.
And you said for a while you were homeless, and you said you were living in a tent?
Correct.
And you were together that entire time?
All the time.
Did Mr. Rosenbaum ever introduce you to someone named Joshua Zeminski?
No.
Did Mr. Rosenbaum ever introduce you to someone named Kelly Zeminski?
No.
Did he ever talk about knowing a Josh or a Kelly?
No.
Do you know Joshua or Kelly Zeminski?
I don't.
How tall was Joseph?
5'3".
How tall are you?
5'3".
And was Joseph a larger individual, build-wise? Was he bigger frame, smaller frame, medium frame?
He was medium, smaller frame.
Do you know if Joshua had any money on him when he was at your residence?
I'm sorry.
Do you know if he had any money?
Joseph?
Did I say Joshua? I apologize. Did Joseph have any money?
No.
Now, did Joseph spend the night there, or how did he end up leaving? Or what? Let me ask it this way: did Joshua leave? Did Joseph leave?
Yes, he did.
About what time?
He left at exactly 9:38 because I looked at my clock.
You looked at your clock?
My watch.
And how was your parting? How did you part ways?
It was really good. We were talking about things we were going to work on in the relationship. He was extremely excited to work on himself, work on some of the things he needed to work on, and when he left, he said he said that he would see me in the morning, and he was all excited, and I love you. It was a pleasant visit.
Was there any discussion of the potential for events downtown or the curfew or anything like that?
I did explain to him that things had gotten bad the last few days because he was not in town, and I did tell him explicitly not to go downtown.
And what is the next thing that you remember happening that night in relation to Joseph?
I got a phone call at 4 a.m. from the medical examiner.
And is that when you discovered that Joseph was deceased?
Correct.
Did Joseph own any guns?
No.
Did he have an interest or a hobby involving guns that you're aware of?
Not at all.
You never saw him reading magazines or articles or having a knowledge about guns?
No, he did not like guns.
What do you mean?
I would object to this line of questioning based upon the court's prior ruling, motion and eliminate in this subject regarding firearms.
Sustain.
So what did you do once you received this news?
I fell to my knees and cried.
And then what, if anything, did you do?
I went on my phone and looked up on the Facebook Kenosha scanner page to see what the police call might have been about that night, and there was a video link, and I clicked that, and that's when I saw the video of Joe dying.
So you watched one of the videos of the shooting?
Correct.
And that evening, had you been watching, we've heard a lot of people are out there live streaming or filming or the news. Had you been watching any of that?
Nothing.
All right, so you had no idea that anything, you didn't know what was happening in downtown Kenosha until 4 o'clock in the morning?
Till 4 in the morning.
Once you saw that video, what did you do?
I broke down, and I can't get that image out of my head, so yeah.
Did you go down to downtown Kenosha at all?
I did the following morning. My sister picked me up about 8 a.m. and we went over to Car Source, and there was the mark where Joe had been laying, and I put my hand in it, and my hand was wet with his blood, and that's again when I collapsed on the ground.
I'd like to show you what is marked as States Exhibits 42 and 43. Put them here, we'll look at them in order, okay?
Okay.
I'd like to show you Exhibit 42. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a picture of Joe and I in front of Quick Trip.
And is that a true and accurate copy of a photo of you two together?
Yes.
If you know, do you know when in relation to August 25th that was taken?
I would say, in relation to when, probably a year prior.
Oh, so probably closer to when you first met.
Yes.
I would like to move Exhibit 42 into evidence.
Objection?
I don't.
Received.
I'd like to take a look at Exhibit number 43. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a picture of Joe and I in the bathroom.
Okay. And is it a true and accurate copy of a picture of yourself and Mr. Rosenbaum?
It is.
And is that a picture? I'd like to move Exhibit 43 into evidence.
Objection?
I don't have an objection.
Received.
And if you know, where in your relationship was that taken, time-wise? Was it?
This was about April of 2020.
Thank you. I'd like to publish the pictures by having them passed around the jury.
Objection?
No.
Go ahead.
I believe that's all the questions I have.
Judge, I know you don't want us to approach, but based on our earlier conversation, I'd like to have a conversation about specific areas of inquiry.
Let me ask you folks to step out for a minute. And yeah, when you finish looking at those pictures, then I'm going to ask you to step into the library for a minute. After you've done so, why don't you step in the library? And I don't think this will be lengthy. Yeah, go ahead. So, Paul, you had to work today instead of your usual leisurely job down the hall.
Do we want her here during the discussion?
I beg pardon?
Is it okay if she's here during our discussion?
She can step out for a few minutes, but I assume this isn't going to be lengthy. But we'll find out. If you're more comfortable walking around for a little bit, you can, but it's going to be just a matter of minutes, I hope. Mr. Tarathasi.
So, Judge, I don't want to. We had talked about this after openings, and I didn't want to step on any pretrial ruling. In the opening statement, there was a statement about Mr. Rosenbaum being in the hospital in Milwaukee. That was addressed with Ms. Swart on direct examination. I am of the opinion that simply stating he was in a hospital is a misrepresentation as to what actually was going on. Most people are at hospitals for physical ailments, to recover from whatever's going on. And I think if we're going to give the jury a clear picture of the hospital he was in, I think we have to be able to at least, I think it's appropriate now based on their questioning, and the questioning is evidence, so that in fact that he had been released from Aurora, their mental health wing, or their mental health.
Why is that not part of the hospital?
I'm not saying it's not part of the hospital, but I think it's reasonable to say that the majority of people believe that you're at a hospital for physical ailments.
I don't know that of course we get a jaded view because we deal with a larger percentage of people who are hospitalized who are there for mental or emotional disorders. So, but and you're not selling this, sir.
Well, the other area that she had mentioned, or that was talked about on cross-examination, was did he take his medications that day?
Yeah, that's another matter.
So it's irrelevant, I suppose, if he takes blood pressure medication or medication like that. I'm assuming, and she can come in and do this outside the presence of the jury, I'm assuming there's testimony about him taking his medications for mental health ailments. And I would ask, I don't have to go into it too deep, but I think it's relevant that I ask her what those medications were that he took that day.
It could be, but what if she names a medication? Do we know why it was prescribed, what its pharmacological properties are, what the possible side effects are, what it's generally used for? There's all kinds of things, and I'm not going to invite the jury to speculate on that by just dropping in front of them while he was taking liquid penicillin. It means nothing to the jury. So I'm just depositing something for them to speculate about, and so I'm hostile to that.
If she knows what it's for?
Well, I'm going to let you have your voir dire to determine the extent of her knowledge.
Okay.
It is fair game because you did bring up about medication.
That's all I can ask, so.
Okay. Did you want to say anything?
I don't believe it's relevant. There's things in the reports that he had not taken medications that day. That's why I brought it up. I don't think it's technically all that big of a deal. I do believe it's. I don't think it's relevant. I think that Your Honor brings up a good point, which is these psychoactive drugs, these benzodiazepine type drugs. I'm not an expert on them, or else I wouldn't be at this table. But one drug can be prescribed for a variety of diagnoses.
We're going to information because for the very reasons I've said, I'm not just going to give them something that means nothing to them and then ask them to try to speculate as to what it's for. So ask her to come in and she can be examined. Go ahead, Mr. Sharofsky.
Good afternoon, sir.
You had answered some questions from Attorney Kraus regarding Joseph taking medications that day.
Correct.
Mr.
Rosenbaum. Sorry.
Thank you.
That Mr. Rosenbaum had taken medications that day?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what they were?
No, I only know some of them. I don't remember all of them.
Do you know, can you tell us the sum that you know he took?
Gabapentin was one.
I'm gonna stop you for 1 second. Do you know what he takes that, did you know what he took that for?
Bipolar disorder.
Okay. Any other medications that you know that he took?
I know he was on an antidepressant. At that time, I don't know which one they had him on.
Okay.
Those would, and then something for sleep.
Okay, but so the only, to be fair to you, the only medication that you know by name was gabapentin.
Mm-hmm.
And you are telling us that you know he took that for his bipolar disorder.
Correct.
Okay.
Any question for the state?
Do you know do you know that he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
Yes.
Did you go to doctor's appointments with him or anything of that nature?
Yes.
And how do you know that gabapentin was prescribed for that reason?
I was his emergency contact at the hospital, so they really called me and asked me what kind of medications I've worked in the past for him. And I told them, and they were in contact with me, letting me know what medications he was on, just like they called me that morning to say they were going to be letting him go. But that he had had his medication.
So the hospital told you that day or the night before that they were gonna. Did they say they were prescribing it, or did they just ask you what they should prescribe?
At first, they were asking what they thought was best, and then I told them what had worked for him in the past, and the doctor or the nurse that I spoke with, then explained to me what medications they put him on, and that was that.
How many medications total, if you know, was he taking? Or was he let me add this way. Was he given at the hospital?
I believe he was given Effexor, gabapentin, and Seroquel for sleep. Seroquel.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look up these drugs. I'm not familiar with them. I have no further questions.
All right. Yeah, I think there's enough information that it's admissible. So, and the state did open the door. So, ask the jury to come back in, please.
Ms. Swart, I only have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Okay. So you had mentioned on direct examination that you and Mr. Rosenbaum spent the day of the 25th together. Is that fair?
The afternoon, yes.
Okay. And you were asked by Attorney Krause if he had taken his medication that day, right?
Correct.
And Mr. Rosenbaum was taking gabapentin, is that right?
I believe so, yes. That's what I was told.
Okay. And you know, having been around him, that was for bipolar disorder?
It was to help with, along with the antidepressant.
And when you saw him, this plastic bag, you saw the picture of the plastic bag?
Correct.
One of the things that you mentioned that he had in there was a plastic water bottle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you had said that plastic water bottle was empty, is that right?
Correct.
Did you find it odd that he was walking around with an empty plastic water bottle?
Well, when I saw the bag with the empty bottle, I thought it might have been garbage. I asked if he wanted me to throw it out, but he said because he had some clothes and some paperwork from the hospital that he was just going to hold on to the bag because that was all he had.
And he didn't ask you to throw away the water bottle, did he?
No.
He took that with him when he left you that evening, is that right?
As far as I know.
Now, you had said that normally you had spent a lot of your time or all of your time together.
Yes.
But that night was going to be different, is that fair?
Yes.
And you had told him not to go downtown.
Correct.
Okay. Why was that?
Because of all the unrest the days prior.
And you were concerned that he was going to go down there?
No, I was concerned that because the entire city was up in flames that something would happen to him anywhere. But specifically it seemed like it was downtown. So because he was coming from Milwaukee and didn't know all that information about Kenosha, I just wanted to make sure he knew.
Did you feel the need to go with him when he left?
No.
And did he tell you where he was going?
No, he didn't.
Did he, to your knowledge, did he have anywhere else to stay?
No, he did not.
So it was either with you or no other designated kind of place to go?
Correct.
And my last question, from where you were staying, how far is it to 59th and Sheridan?
I would guess an hour walk back, because it's about an hour from the transit to the hotel, so it'd probably be about an hour back to this area.
So if we walk, let's say we walk 4 miles an hour, I don't know that, but so it would be maybe 3, 4, 5 miles, somewhere in there?
I don't know.
Okay, good enough. Ma'am, I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you for your time.
Any question?
Yes, please. Ms. Swart, did the hospital he was at today consult with you on medications he was going to receive?
Yes.
And why? So was this a new mixture of medications that he was on?
No. This was his regular medication that he had gone off of and had been back on for the last week or so, last week, 10 days before his death.
And he had been on that with his other medications altogether for a while?
Yeah, for the whole time I was with him, a year, yeah.
Nothing further.
I have no follow-up questions.
You may step down, ma'am. State.